Antonia Brooks sat in the sterile waiting room of Dr. Harlan's clinic, the air thick with the faint scent of antiseptic and stale coffee. At 71 years old, she had grown accustomed to these routine checkups, a ritual that had become more frequent since her husband Robert's sudden death 6 months earlier. The room was a bland canvas of beige walls and faded posters promoting healthy living, filled with the low hum of murmured conversations and the occasional cough from fellow patients. Antonia clutched her worn handbag, her fingers tracing the frayed edges, lost in thought about the life she had built and lost. The chairs were hard green plastic, the kind that creaked under even the slightest shift. A young mother bounced a fussy toddler on her knee. An elderly man leafed through a dog-eared magazine. A middle-aged woman stared blankly at her phone. Antonia's mind drifted to Robert, his gentle smile over morning coffee, the way he'd kiss her forehead and say, "Good morning, my love." His last words, spoken over toast and cream-laced coffee, just before his heart gave out at the breakfast table. 45 years of marriage ended in an instant. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from her reverie. She fumbled for it, her arthritic hands trembling slightly as she answered. "Hello. Mom, it's Angela." Her daughter's voice was clipped, devoid of its usual warmth, almost mechanical. "We're going on a trip to Europe tomorrow. I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." The line went dead before Antonia could utter a word. She stared at the screen, the words blurring as shock coursed through her veins. 45 years of motherhood, sacrifices, sleepless nights, endless love, reduced to a 2-minute dismissal. Angela, her only child, had treated her like an obsolete relic, discarded without a second thought. The beach house, a sanctuary of sun-soaked memories, and Robert's beloved Ford pickup truck, still carrying the faint aroma of his aftershave, gone. Sold for quick cash to fund some impulsive adventure with Edward, that slick husband of hers who had always eyed Antonia with thinly veiled disdain. The waiting room noise faded into a distant buzz. Antonia's chest tightened, not with tears, but with a strange, steely resolve. She took a deep breath, forcing a small smile as the nurse called her name. "Mrs. Brooks? The doctor will see you now." The examination room was colder, the paper on the table crinkling under her as Dr. Harlan checked her vitals. "Blood pressure's fine, heart steady for your age," he said, his voice kind but distant. "Just rest more, eat better. You're doing well, all things considered." Antonia nodded absently, her mind already racing ahead. As she left the clinic and boarded the bus home, her car now belonging to some stranger, she couldn't shake the memory that had surfaced during Angela's call. 3 days before Robert's fatal heart attack, he had handed her a manila envelope with a solemn expression. "Antonia, keep this in your dresser drawer. If something happens to me, open it when you're ready." Grief had buried it in her mind, but now it beckoned like a lifeline. The bus ride felt eternal, the cityscape blurring past the window, towering apartment buildings with laundry fluttering on balconies, bustling shops with neon signs flickering, people hurrying through their lives, each carrying invisible burdens. The driver announced stops in a monotone. Children laughed in the back. An old woman clutched grocery bags. Antonia's own burden felt heavier than ever, yet lighter too, buoyed by curiosity. Arriving home, she entered the quiet house, the silence echoing Robert's absence. The kitchen table where they had shared countless breakfasts stood empty, a ghost of their routine. Sunlight filtered through lace curtains, casting patterns on the worn linoleum floor. She headed straight to her bedroom, the floorboards creaking underfoot, and opened the dresser drawer. There it was, the envelope, untouched and waiting, Robert's handwriting neat on the front, "Antonia." Her hands shook as she tore it open, sitting on the edge of the bed they had shared for 45 years. The mattress dipped familiarly. The quilt smelled of lavender from her weekly washes. Inside were deeds, bank statements, certificates, and a handwritten letter from Robert. His neat script brought tears to her eyes. "My dearest Antonia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Forgive me for keeping secrets, but I wanted to shield you from worries. Over the years, I invested our savings wisely. We own more than you know, 6 properties besides the beach house, including the apartment building where Angela and Edward live. Shares in 3 thriving companies. You're wealthy, my love, far wealthier than we ever let on. I hid it because I feared Angela might change if she knew. I wanted her love to be genuine, not tied to our fortune. With all my love, forever. Robert. Antonia's breath caught. She rifled through the documents under the soft glow of her bedside lamp. Deeds to modest homes in quiet neighborhoods with maple-lined streets, a downtown condo overlooking the winding river with its bustling ferries, a coastal motel with ocean views and salt-kissed breezes, and yes, the 20-unit apartment building Angela called home, its modern facade hiding Robert's silent ownership for a decade. Bank accounts with balances that made her head spin, millions, accumulated from Robert's shrewd investments during his 40 years as a bus driver. He had turned every scrimped penny into a silent empire, all in a company name she now controlled as sole heir, Robert Investments Incorporated. Irony twisted in her gut like a knife. Angela had sold what she thought was Antonia's meager inheritance, leaving her penniless, when in reality, Antonia held the keys to everything. Edward, with his smarmy smiles and constant hints about helping with finances, always suggesting they manage her affairs, had likely orchestrated it all. But Robert, ever the planner, had outsmarted them from beyond the grave. That night, sleep evaded her. She paced the house, fingers brushing faded floral wallpaper in the hallway, dusty knickknacks on the mantel, ceramic birds Robert collected, a framed photo of their wedding day. Angela had once mocked them as outdated clutter. Family photos lined the walls. Angela at 5, giggling on Robert's lap in a sunlit park. Teenage Angela at the beach house, building sandcastles with friends. Adult Angela with Edward at their wedding, her eyes sparkling with what Antonia now saw as greed. Not joy. Where had her sweet girl gone? When had convenience replaced love? The clock ticked loudly in the living room, marking hours of reflection. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen window as Antonia brewed coffee, the aroma filling the space Robert once dominated. The phone rang again. Angela's voice was softer, almost saccharine, laced with false concern. "Mom, how are you? We transferred your share, 30%, into your account. It's not much, but it'll tide you over while you look for something smaller. We're heading to Europe this afternoon. Don't worry, we'll help you find a small apartment when we return. Maybe 6 months if the business thrives." Antonia's response was measured, her voice steady despite the storm inside. "Your share? How generous. Safe travels, dear." After hanging up, laughter bubbled up, genuine, cathartic, echoing off the tiled walls. The absurdity hit her. Angela, thinking she'd left her mother destitute, had funded a doomed escapade with blood money. Checking her account on her ancient laptop at the kitchen table, Antonia saw the pittance deposited, far below the property's worth, sold in haste for quick cash. The beach house, appraised at over $1 million, gone for half. The truck, a classic Robert polished every Sunday, for a few thousand. From her window overlooking the quiet suburban street, maple trees swaying, neighbors watering lawns, she watched Angela and Edward load suitcases into a cab. Angela's designer carry-on gleamed. Edward hefted 2 massive bags, laughing about Parisian cafes. They looked like carefree lovers, never glancing her way, never waving goodbye. The cab pulled away, leaving exhaust in the air. Decisions loomed like storm clouds. She could call a lawyer immediately, sue for fraud, reclaim everything in a blaze of legal fury. But a deeper wisdom stirred, Robert's words about genuine love. Angela needed a lesson, not vengeance, education, not punishment. Antonia dialed Mr. Peterson, Robert's discreet lawyer from the funeral, a silver-haired man with kind eyes who had offered condolences and his card. "I found documents. I need your help urgently, but secretly." The meeting was set for the next day. Antonia dressed carefully in her wine-red dress, Robert's favorite, the fabric soft from years of wear. She applied subtle makeup, rosy blush, a touch of lipstick, tying her silver hair in a neat bun. In the mirror, cracked slightly at the edge, she saw not a frail widow, but a resilient woman ready to reclaim her power. The bus downtown wound through traffic, past skyscrapers and parks, depositing her at Peterson's office, a bastion of old-world elegance with mahogany desks, leather-bound law books, sunlight streaming through tall windows onto Persian rugs. He reviewed the papers, eyes widening behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Mrs. Brooks, Robert was a genius. You're the owner of assets worth millions. The beach house sale was fraudulent. We can void it immediately. Legal action against Angela for fraud? Power of attorney misuse." "No," Antonia said firmly, her voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged room. "Discreet recovery. Nullify the sale, regain control of everything, especially her building. No one knows yet, and it stays that way." Weeks blurred into a meticulously crafted double life. Outwardly, the pitiful widow, morning grocery runs to the corner market, where the butcher slipped extra cuts for the poor deer, chats with neighbors filled with pitying glances. Poor Antonia, abandoned by her own daughter, they'd whisper over fences. Aurora, her nosy but kind lifelong neighbor with curly gray hair and a penchant for baked goods, offered casseroles and sympathy. "How will you manage, dear? Robert left so little. Let me bring dinner." Inwardly, Antonia transformed into a silent strategist. Afternoons poring over documents at the kitchen table, sunlight shifting across pages, calls with Mr. Peterson tracking progress in hushed tones. She learned finance basics, property values fluctuating with market trends, investment yields from blue-chip stocks, rental income from the apartment building, steady, appreciating in a booming district. Edward's debts loomed large, collateralized on illusions of ownership, his signature on loans he couldn't repay. 3 weeks in, Mr. Peterson called while Antonia watered her front yard roses, the scent sweet in the afternoon air. "Beach house recovered. Buyers refunded without issue. It's yours again." They were innocent, believed the ill mother's story. Antonia visited the next day, bus ride evoking memories of Robert's drives, windows down, radio playing oldies. The house stood unchanged, cream exterior faded by salt air, porch facing crashing waves that whispered secrets. Potted geraniums from the brief owners dotted the steps. Sitting across the street on a weathered bench, she reminisced, summers grilling fish on the rusty barbecue, smoke curling into twilight, Angela's laughter echoing as she chased waves, birthdays with cake smeared on faces. An elderly buyer emerged, watering plants. "You okay, ma'am?" "Just remembering. I knew the owners well." He shared the tale over the fence, told us the old lady was ill, needed quick cash. Sad, but the sale fell through illegal. "We're house hunting again." Antonia's heart ached, not for money, but Angela's lies about her illness, painting her as frail to justify theft. Back home, she pushed for the truck's return. "Complicated," Mr. Peterson warned over the phone as Antonia sipped tea. "Power of attorney signed post-funeral under duress? Grief makes one vulnerable." She recalled the haze, Angela bustling with helpful papers amid funeral chaos. Prove deception. Get it back and everything. Routine solidified, mornings as the widow, waving to mailmen and dog walkers, afternoons as the mogul, spreadsheets open, coffee cooling. Neighbors' compassion amused her. She played the role flawlessly, accepting pies with grateful smiles. Then, whispers rippled through the neighborhood grapevine, Edward's debts investigated by banks, Angela returning alone. Aurora burst in one evening, apron dusted with flour. "Edward's in trouble, loans on the apartment, but it's not his. No Europe business. He fled debts, lied to Angela." Antonia smiled inwardly, stirring soup on the stove. Robert's plan unfolded like clockwork. Angela arrived unannounced, disheveled, alone. Aurora reported later over tea, looked terrible, pale, circles under eyes, one suitcase. No keys. Super let her in with emergency copy. The eviction notice was sent via Robert Investments. Angela called, frantic, voice cracking over the line as Antonia folded laundry. "Mom, strange letter, evict from my apartment in 30 days? From Robert Investments? Mistake. Never heard of it, Antonia lied calmly, pinning a sock. Angela begged to visit, desperation palpable. At the door, she was a shadow, thin from stress, designer clothes wrinkled, eyes red from transatlantic tears. Mom, I'm sorry. Edward left me for a 25-year-old waitress in Paris. No business, all lies. Debts everywhere, over $200,000, some in my name via forgery. They sat in the kitchen, steam from fresh coffee curling between them. Angela sobbed into her hands. Can I stay? I have nothing, no job, no savings. Of course, dear. This is home. But Antonia's hug held strategy, warm, yet calculated. Let her settle, feel safe, then teach the hard truths. Angela moved in the next day, 2 suitcases and a box rattling in the cab. Unpacking in her old room, posters long gone, bed still with the same floral quilt, she moved with humiliation etched in every fold. Mom, I found this, she said, holding another manila envelope from Edward's things. Robert's handwriting, a key to safety deposit box 247, note for difficult times. At the bank the following morning, marble floors echoing, tellers behind glass, box 247 revealed jewels, emerald necklaces glinting under fluorescence, pearl bracelets, family rings. Worth $200,000 per Robert's appraisal letter. Angela gasped in the vault's cool air. Sell some, pay debts, reclaim your house. Antonia demurred. Heirlooms, memories. But Angela pressed, eyes wild with hope. She sold most over weeks, haggling at jewelers with fluorescent lights and velvet trays, netting $180,000. Prioritized debts per a free advisor's spreadsheet. Mr. Peterson located Edward. Fake marriage in Paris for residency. Fraud evidence freeing Angela from forged loans. Antonia watched her daughter struggle, job interviews in stuffy offices yielding a night cleaning gig. Hard, but dignified, Angela said one dawn, returning with aching feet, uniform rumpled. She matured, budgeting pennies, reflecting in quiet moments. Aurora noted over backyard fence chats. Humble now, not the arrogant girl who left. Angela confided one evening by lamplight, learned what matters, love, not luxury. Revelation Day, Peterson's office, leather chairs creaking. Documents unveiled the fortune. Angela's shock morphed to tears. You knew? Let me suffer. To learn value of family, respect, responsibility. Tears of understanding flowed. Debts cleared legally, but Angela kept the job, earned dignity through effort. Months later, a foundation for abused women bloomed Beach House, a shelter with bunk beds and ocean views. Angela pursued social work, paying tuition from savings, helping coworkers with daycare funds. Edward jailed in France, Angela indifferent, letter unanswered. Rebuilt bond, partnership of equals, porch dinners under stars, planning futures. Did you like my story? And which city are you listening from? Let's meet in the comments. If you liked the story, you can support me by sending a super thanks so I can keep bringing more stories like this. Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.